Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents Surprise Thursday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with the Four Horsemen's Mythic Legions, Aracagorr. Let's get into it! Let's begin with a look at this really tall packaging. And there, I'm going to make it flip backwards. But here we go on the top. We've got some artwork going on back here. And a Four Horsemen's logo. And then a little bit of a window here that wraps around to the front. Nice big window on the front showcasing the figure. And, well, I don't really see the accessories, but maybe they're in the back. I can't really see them. Mythic Legions and some artwork right, all along the edges here. And it does wrap around. There seems to be like some kind of castle or edifice of some sort here. And then it's just a bunch of mountainous stuff. And then here is maybe a faction logo. And then on this side, again, some more nice artwork of mountains, and then further away mountains, and then some kind of artifact or monument. MythicLegions.com, SourceHorseman.com, StoreHorseman.com for more information. And here is Aracagorr. Yeah, I know I messed it up. So Aracagorr's bio, and if you want to read that, I'm going to hold it here. You can pause it and read it to your heart's content if you so desire to do so. Here on the bottom of the packaging, small print, fine print, legalese print. The website's again a barcode, adult collectible print, made in China print, item number. Warning, don't stick things in your pie hole that do not belong there. Don't give it to babies. And to see the entire collection, please visit MythicLegions.com. And finally, on the back, we've got some nice artwork of the character, and then this looks like cross sale of some more of these large guys. And then here's another text block here. And again, if you want to read that, please feel free to pause it and do so. And there's all this small fine legalese print right here as well. And that, my friends, does it for a look at the packaging. Let's take a look at the figure and his accessories. And we'll start with the accessories. And I do have handy dandy tweezers over here in case we need them. And first up, we have a flame effect for his sword. It's made out of translucent plastic, and it's got some color injected in there, or it's molded in that kind of translucent-y color. So overall looks pretty nice. It does have some nice details in it. And then here's the big honking sword that he comes with, and I mean, just look at all the details in here, the pommel, in the handguard, and then even in the blade. And it's cracked right here and there. I go bumping the camera because that's what I do. And then just very, very detailed piece. And it looks fantastic. And the fire actually works with this sword, or the flame effect, whatever you want to call it. Let me see if I can remember how it sticks on there. So it's got a channel in there, and you just kind of fix it onto the blade, and there we go. And it stays on there pretty darn good. Now next up we have 2 extra sets of hands, and they're grasping or clawing, splayed finger hands. And look at all the detail and the paint apps. I mean, is this a wash? I'm guessing that's what it is. And his nails there. And then the fade into the white here. And it's on in and out hinges, but looks very, very awesome. And then same thing can be said about this one. Just fantastic. And the other set of hands are fists, and again on in and out hinges. And again, look at that sculpted detail and those paint apps. It's just, it's very cool. And same thing can be said about this one as well. And look, they even dry brushed or washed some of the hinge there. So the last 2 accessories are these shoulder armor bits, which you can leave off like this, and you can even remove that harness from them, or you can put them on. There's posts right here, and they plug into ports on his back, and you can see this one says it's the right side. And just nice molded details. Look at the, I'm guessing it's, I don't know if it's a wash or if it's dry brush. Probably a wash in there. And just makes all those details in there stand out. And then nice silver paint app here for the buckle and the end of the belt and the rivets. And even on the back side too. And then we've got this nice paint app right here. So that's very nice. And same thing on this one. I mean, the wash, the detail, I mean, look at that. It's seen some action. The paint apps. And then this one is marked left. So that's all very, very nice. And we haven't even gotten to the figure yet. So let's start with the figure. And I want to say there's one more accessory or loose piece. I don't know if you really call it accessory, but the tail does not come attached. And the way you have to put it on is there's a post in the middle of the figure for the waist. And this tail has a ring on it that's open on one side, and you have to work it in a gap under here and click it onto there. And it's actually, there's a hole here that the tail is supposed to go through, but I could not manage to get the tail in through the hole and put into place properly, so I just left it with it over the tail, and to me that looks fine. For some of you, you may want to fiddle with it some even more, and look at that, it's already starting to come apart there a little bit, the soft goods piece. But I think they all kind of do that a little bit, that are not sewn on the edges. But let's take a look at this guy's deco. And the eye, and just the outside of the eye, then under the eye, and then this part, and then the head. And look at all this, all these paint apps. And then it's got his horns, and then there's these silvery pieces here. And look at all the deco on the teeth. But there's even molded detail and deco inside the mouth, and I don't know how well you can see it, but there's like a glossy clear coat on the inside of the mouth that gives it a bit of a shine to make it look like it's moist. And look at these paint apps, and I mean, this is all just amazing. And even down on the tail some. And the chest it's not really showing up super well on the camera, but there's like an iridescence here, and you can see like some of these paint apps are kind of shiny, but there's an iridescence in here, and maybe you can see it a little bit like right here. It's got little flecks like glitter in it maybe, and it gives it an iridescent sheen, and that's all along this part. And then again, like the chromy, shiny, glossy look to some of the scales, and it is just fantastic. And look at all the molded detail. I mean, all the scaling coupled with those paint apps, and it just makes it stand out even more. And look at all these sculpted details in this belt piece, and it's a little bit made of, you know, like the softer plastic, so it flexes a little bit. So there is that. He's got some nice soft goods and paint apps on the belt as well. And then the arm gauntlets, it's got some paint apps on it as well as a wash, I do believe. And same holds true for the belt. It's got some paint apps around, and then here, and then the little studs or rivets, whatever you want to call them. And again, the soft goods piece in the back. And these are nice flexible pieces, so they don't really hinder the articulation too much, but you can see it does cover up kind of some ugly ball joints there, but as long as they're covered, it's all good in my book. And then you don't really have any of that iridescence to the tail here, except for like these parts, which I don't know if that's just the paint or if it's a clear coat on top of it, but I would assume it's just the paint. And then even like the bottom of the feet, something they really didn't have to pay attention to, and yet they did. And the feet here are almost the same as the hands, with like the, I don't know if it's a dry brush or a wash or what's going on with it, but it looks great. It is awesome. Now, let's talk about his articulation. And he can look up that high. He can look down that low. And because he's on just a ball joint, so he doesn't have any chicken neck. And he's got some waggle. He can do, well, I say that's waggle. It's really turned, but... So, yeah. He does have a little waggle. He can do the full exorcist. And I did forget to point out, now his harness has some posts in the back of it, and ports in the back of it, as well as his back. And you would think like the armor pieces would pop into here, and they may. I didn't try that, but I think if you put them in here, they're set up a little too high, so they're made to go in here, and we'll get to that momentarily. So that's for his head, well, at least almost for his head. His jaw opens, and with his head in the uprightmost position, he can open his mouth that wide. So that's really, really cool. Then at the shoulder, 360 degrees of rotation, and he can raise his arm up that high, so not quite 90 degrees. Nothing in the bicep. He does have a single hinge and swivel at the elbow, and the arm swivels around 360 degrees and gives us not quite 90 degrees worth of bend. So this piece is a separate piece, so it just kind of rotates around. So he does have 360 degrees of rotation at the wrist, and that's on an in and out hinge, and in and out hinge on this side as well, and they're both C-grip hands. There's a cut right here where the chest and the abdomen meet, or about midway form, and it feels like there's a dumbbell in there maybe, and he can hula there. He can... And this thing's going to get all tangled up. But he can rotate 360 degrees around there. And then the thing's going to pop off, of course. So you can see that's how it's removable. This piece pops off, kind of like He-Man. Or, excuse me, Masters of the Universe. If you want to get technical. And maybe I'll get this on here. No. Why don't I just pause it and fix it off screen? And that may end up being what I have to do because I didn't get it in there all the way. So, hula all around there and 360 degrees of rotation. Now there's also a cut at the waist. And it does not rotate 360 degrees. It looks like that's about all I can get out of it. And then the other way, about the same. So then at the hips, he can give you that much of the splits. He can kick forward that high, so just shy of 90 degrees, or maybe right at 90 degrees. And then back, not so much. Single hinge and swivel at the knee, and where the swivel is in the bottom, right just under the knee. And it does swivel 360 degrees, and it will give you that much bend. Now in the tail there's a cut right here, and it will swivel around 360 degrees. No movement up here at the upper piece. And then at the ankles, I'm going to tilt them down so far they pop off. So there is that. You can change those out. And it looks like maybe that piece does not come off. So, tilts down that far. Tilts up that far. And then has a forward-facing pin for rocker. And I'm going to take this and fix it real quick. Alright, there, it just took a minute to get that all fixed. And then we've got another piece coming off there. I may have to trim that string piece. I don't know. So let's talk about the shoulder armors. And again, there's these ports, but it doesn't really fit in there. I guess it could, but it looks, I don't know, it looks kind of weird to me. There. So, it goes in this port right here in his back. And you'll hear a nice satisfying pop when you get it in there, or at least I did. And then the other side does the same thing. No satisfying pop on that side though. And then this will, you know, move up and down a bit however you need it to. And it does hinder some of the articulation. And then this piece doesn't want to line up right. And then as far as the sword goes, he can hold it in his hand, either one. And there you have it, my friends. There's a look at the figure and his accessories. It's time for my favorite part of a review, comparisons. And here we have the Mythic Legion's Aracagorr with the old Toy Biz, Lord of the Rings Gandalf the White, the Figura Obscura Sun Wukong the Monkey King, and from Savage Crucible, the Lumerian Royal Guard. For our final set of comparisons, here we have all the way in the back the Mythic Legion's Aracagorr, with starting in the front, making his cameo appearance from the Marvel Legends series, Stan the Man Lee from G.I. Joe Classified series, the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Regal variant Cobra Commander from Star Wars The Black Series, the Archive Edition 501st Legion Clone Trooper, and for a 7-inch scale comparison from the Masters of the Universe Masterverse line, the 40th Anniversary He-Man. For final thoughts on the Four Horsemen's Mythic Legion's Aracagorr, I have to say, I am in awe of this figure. This is one of the most fantastic figures that I have ever laid my hands on. From the sculpt, just the detail in the sculpt, to the paint apps, to the choices, to the iridescent look of it, and then in some places it's shiny, where it's like they used a metallic paint, and this is coming from a colorblind guy. I think the colors on this are amazing, and the job done on these paint apps is fantastic. And even on the inside of his mouth, they gave it, not only did they paint the inside of his mouth and a couple of paint apps in there as well, but they also gave it a glossy overcoat to give it that kind of a wet inside your mouth look. The armor pieces, okay, maybe not as impressive as the rest of the figure, but the attention to detail paid even on this little bit of armor that he has on is fantastic. It does not hinder his range of motion. And there's even one piece of articulation that I forgot to mention during the main part of the review, and that's he does have a cut here in his tail, and it will rotate 360 degrees. Now, with all of those great things being said, and these are just little minor things that I can probably fix without any problem. And it's only one minor thing, at least to me. His wrists are a little bit loose, so the heavy sword tends to make them spin to where the sword is pointing down. That's not the reason I have it pointed this way. I pointed it that way on purpose for this part of the review because I didn't want it way up in the air. But, so that's really the only major issue that I have with this figure, and it's not even a major issue, it's a very minor issue. And the only problem I had with this guy was getting his tail on properly. And I still didn't get it 100% properly, because you're supposed to, there's a hole in the back of his little fur piece that you're supposed to feed the tail through and then hook it around his waist peg on the inside of the figure. And I tried and tried, and I couldn't get it to go that way, so I just put the fur piece over the tail altogether, and that works for me, not just getting it in place, but it works for me visually as well. I didn't really think that it made 100% sense for it to be poking through, but that's just me. And that's one of the things this line is about. You can customize these figures, how you want, whether it be armor or putting their furry underwear on over their tail. So that's, again, that's just me. That's the way I got it to work. But other than that, two very, very, very minor issues. And not even issues, just complaints, or not even really complaints. Just things that I had a problem with. You may not have that same issue. You may get the tail on there first try, bada bing, bada bang. But I didn't, and this is the way I got it to work. And for me, I like it better than the idea of it sticking through. So, to me, this is a better aesthetic choice. Your mileage, of course, may vary. But I still have to say, this is probably, it's one of, if not the most fantastic figures that I have ever reviewed or that I've ever laid my hands on. This is definitely, if you don't want to get into Mythic Legions, do not pick this figure up. Don't. But if you're wanting to kick the tires and willing to get hooked, pick this guy up for sure. Because out of, I don't have a lot of figures in that line. Just, maybe about 5 or 6, 7 so far. And I'm just kind of getting into it. And, I did make the mistake of picking this guy up. And I am hooked. And I am loving this line so far. And I don't know how deep I'm going to be able to go into it. But, it's probably not going to be very deep. Just getting some, figures here and there to kind of fill out my own head canon with it. But, I already talked about the sculpting and the paint. The articulation is great. And, yeah, I have no complaints there. I maybe would like a little bit more, and then this is line wide of what I've looked at so far. I would like a little bit more range of motion in the head and neck area. It's on just a ball joint for the most part, and I would like to get a little bit more range of movement in that area, but again, that's just a minor thing. Well, that does it for the review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. If you are interested in supporting my channel further, I am now offering memberships at various tiers. Click the join button on my YouTube page, or check this video's description for the link and see if any membership offers are right for you. But only if you are in a position to do so. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you would like to see more content, or just help the channel grow, or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.